Hey everyone, Poindexter here. We've reached the third week of November and the end of the month. The goal this week is to knock out one more U-boat pen and finish off the damaged airfield in Belgium. We'll need to start scoring points fast if we're to end the campaign on a good footing. So, let's get started. We start the week with 13 SO points. We add our weekly allocation of 15, but we remove 3 points for the U-boat presence in the channel for a final total of 25. The time has come to mount one final attack against one of our U-boat pens. The question is, should we go for the harder target, which will net us the most victory points and the greater reward? Or do we play it safer and go for the easier target, which has fewer victory points, but requires fewer hits to destroy? We'll go for the easier target. The reasoning is that we need to score points on every mission going forward to meet our goal of a good campaign result. This target, with its +1 modifier, should be a much easier pen to crack. The target is in Hex 6. The further of our 2 U-boat targets. The target allows a maximum of 4 groups. Flak over the target will be considerable, but somewhat inaccurate. But which 4 groups to take? We'll definitely be taking both B-24 groups, as they have the ability to carry more bombs. Also, the Ace 91st group with their +2 air-to-ground modifier. These 3 bomb groups are all good candidates, and all have pros and cons. The 97th group has a +2 air-to-ground modifier, but it has taken a fair number of losses in aircraft, and cannot take too many more before its status is knocked down to shaken. The 301st is at full strength, and has the U-boat air-to-ground +1 modifier, unique to this group. With the target already giving another +1 modifier, the 301st will bomb with a +2. And finally, the 305th. They also have a preferred +2 modifier to bomb, but they took heavy losses on their last mission and are much closer to becoming shaken, which could completely negate their bonus if the flak rolls go badly. After some thought, we'll take the 97th group. Even if this group does happen to get knocked down to shaken, they will still be able to bomb with a +1 modifier, while the 305th will not. So, we'll let the 44th bomb group lead the mission, followed by the 93rd. The 91st and the 97th group will bring up the rear. Since there is only one German squadron near our flight path, we'll forego bringing fighter escort and hope for a favorable German response roll. With our 25 SO points, we'll purchase 6 M34s and 2 M43s to fill out the B-17s. We'll give the B-24s 2 M34s apiece, give the B-17s 1 M34 apiece, along with the M43s. That leaves us with 3 points. We mark out our flight path on the main map, and place our bomb groups on the battle map. We roll for the German response, and it's a 6, modified to a 4 for a poor response. Our mixed force takes off and forms up over England. We draw an event card, and it's a good one. We add 3 damage points to the target because of the combined bomber offensive. Our mission just got a little easier. Our force makes its way to the target area, and the B-24s of the 44th Group are greeted with German flag. And the 44th come through untouched on rolls of 1. The 44th will bomb with a +1, and we add +1 for the target for a final +2 modifier. The 44th drop their payload, and the B-24s clobber the U-boat pen with 2 strong bomb strikes. One bomb hits on a modified 10, while the second hits on a modified 11. With the hardened trait in effect, we remove 1 hit from each bomb, which causes 3 points of damage apiece, for a total of 6 points. The 93rd Group is next, and they fly through German flag. And the group barely escapes damage on rolls of 6 and 3. The 93rd has no modifier, but we add +1 for the target for a final +1 modifier. The Liberators drop their bombs, and the 93rd aren't quite as successful, but they do cause damage. One bomb has no effect on a modified 4, but the other strikes home on a modified 9, which causes 3 points of damage. The B-17s of the 91st are next, and they plow through German flag. And the group barely makes it through unhurt on rolls of 7 and 6, modified to 6 and 5 for durability, and no damage is caused. The Ace 91st will bomb with a +2, and we add +1 for the target, for a final +3 modifier. We only need 1 point of damage to destroy the target. The 91st drop their payload, and it's more than enough to finish off the subpen. The larger M34 hits on a modified 9, causing 3 points of damage, and the smaller M43 hits on a modified 8 for 2 points of damage. With 17 points of damage, the U-boat pen is destroyed. But the 97th Group still has bombs to drop, and they fly through German flag. And the Germans miss on rolls of 2, modified to 1 for B-17 durability. The 97th will bomb with a +2, and we add +1 for the target, for a final +3 modifier. The fortresses drop their bombs into the wreckage. Bombs hit, but don't cause much more damage. The larger M34 hits on a modified 6, causing 1 point of damage, while the M43 hits on a modified 7, causing another point. A final total of 19 points are scored against the U-boat pen. Our 4 groups make the turn for home, and we draw an event card. And the Germans want revenge, and who can blame them? We'll have to re-roll for the German response and add 3 to the final total. Fortunately, the roll is a 2, which becomes a 5 when we add the +3 modifier, and the German response remains poor. With that, our groups wing their way home and land in England safely. Our 4 bomber groups receive 2 experience points for the successful mission. The destroyed U-boat pen gives us 2 more victory points, which brings our final score to 42. Our second mission this week will be against the heavily damaged airfield in Belgium in Hex 11. The target allows for 3 groups, but we're only going to take 2, the 301st and the 92nd. Our remaining group, the 305th, will remain, as they have taken 4 hits, and with flak over this airfield fairly accurate, we don't need to risk more losses. 2 bomber groups should be enough to do the job. We'll also take the 4th fighter group along, just in case the Germans decide to make an appearance. We'll arm both groups with a full complement of M30s, and we'll place our mission markers on the maps. We roll for the German response, and we roll a 2, modified to 0 for another poor response. Our 2 B-17 groups take off and form up over England. The event card is Luftwaffe Unprepared. The response level is already poor, so we ignore the event. The force makes its way to the target area, and the 301st flies through a flak barrage. And the German gunners are caught unprepared on rolls of 1 and 2, modified to 0 and 1 for B-17 durability. The 301st has no modifier, but we add 2 for the target and 2 for the M30s for a final +4 modifier. The 301st drop their bombs, and all 3 bombs completely missed the target on modified rolls of 5, 6, and 7. No hits are scored. The 92nd approaches the target and flies through German flak. And the Germans take a swipe at the group on rolls of 3 and 7, modified to 2 and 6 for durability, which causes 1 hit. The 92nd bombs with a +1. We add 2 for the target and 2 for the M30s for a final +5 modifier. The success of the mission rides on the accuracy of the 92nd Bomb Group. The fortresses drop their bombs, and the second comes through in the clutch. 2 bombs hit for 2 points on modified rolls of 11 and 13, while the third hits for 1 point on a modified 9. With 13 points of damage, the Belgian airfield is destroyed. And with the destruction of the airfield, we move the bandits' disrupted counter up 3 spaces. Our fortress groups swing around and begin their flight home. The event card is Experienced Luftwaffe Pilots, which will have no effect as we will not encounter the Luftwaffe on the way home. And our force makes it back to England safely. The 301st and the 92nd receive 2 experience points for the successful mission, though the 301st will get a few days of practice missions because of their poor bombing. The experience boost also promotes the 92nd group to veteran, and we add 3 more victory points to our final total, which now sits at 45. The 93rd Bomb Group receives its weekly replacement point, which brings its current damage level to 1. The 305th Group, which was rested this week, receives 3 replacement points, bringing their loss total up to 1. And we move the calendar marker, which brings us to the end of the month.
Chief, I need you over here to look at this.
Our first order of business is to evaluate our secondary mission. This was the second and final month of our current mission. Referring to the card, we have caused 5 points of damage to the U-boat pin targets. In order to be successful, we would have needed to destroy at least 7 points, which means we're short by 2 points. Since we have reached the end of our second month, we have failed this secondary mission, though we did get close to completion. Therefore, we will have to subtract 2 SO points from our weekly allotment during the next month. We will not need to draw another secondary mission card, as the months of December, January, and February don't allow secondary missions. Any remaining target cards for our current secondary mission are now discarded. We now perform any German defense adjustments, with the first being changes in the Mediterranean and USSR theaters. The German squadrons placed in these theaters act as die roll modifiers for theater advancement. For both theaters, we'll need to roll a modified 9 or better to advance the theater, while a modified roll of 2 or less retreats the theater. The Mediterranean has 1 German squadron, so we'll apply a -1 modifier to the dice roll, which means we'll need to roll a 10 in order for the theater to advance. And the roll is an 8. The theater marker remains in the torch area. Now we perform the same check against the USSR theater. However, there are 2 German squadrons in the USSR, giving us a -2 modifier to the die roll. Even if we roll a 10, the marker cannot move, as it only advances on a modified roll of 9 or better. Likewise, the marker cannot retreat, so there is no point in rolling for this theater, as nothing will change. Now that we've completed the checks, we'll remove any current German squadrons. Next, we add new Luftwaffe squadrons. With our current German factory output, we'll be adding 9 new squadrons to the map. Using our current theater marker placements, rolling a 2 will place a squadron in the Med theater. Rolls of 3 or 4 will place a squadron in the USSR theater, and rolls of 5 through 10 will add squadrons to Europe. Also, Commander Schroer adds a +1 modifier to the die rolls, which will ensure that no squadrons will be placed in the reserve area, as we would need to roll a 1 for that result. Rather than show each roll individually, we'll get directly to the placement. So, after rolling for all 9 squadrons, this is the final result for the European theater, which will receive 7 new squadrons. And this is the result of the other 2 theaters. The USSR will receive 2 squadrons. Now, we'll roll 2d10 for the placement of each of our 7 new squadrons. After performing the rolls, this is the new German squadron placement in Europe. Hex number 9 is considered a German critical hex, and must have a squadron placed if one doesn't exist. Therefore, we'll move the squadron from Hex 5 into Hex 9. All critical hexes are now covered. Normally, we would now check for the activation of new German technology, but since this campaign does not allow for that, we move on to the next phase, the German Commander Replacement Check. Commander Schroer will be replaced on a roll of 8 or higher. And the roll is a 9. Apparently, the German High Command are tired of too many American bombing raids not being intercepted. We say a bittersweet farewell to Commander Schroer and welcome his new replacement, Commander Sparrow. Sparrow uses the out-of-the-sun tactic, the same as Commander Schroer, but he also adds a new tactic called group attack. When using this tactic, we only roll 1 die for bandits when determining which group they will attack. Then, all non-intercepted bandits will attack that group with no limits on the number that can attack. A dangerous tactic that could potentially chop a lone bomber group to pieces. Sparrow also has the Construct New Aircraft Factory modifier. We are to draw another factory card and add it to our target row, along with the corresponding supply counter. Fortunately, this is only done once, when Sparrow takes command. It is also fortunate that we are near the end of our campaign, and the addition of this new factory will not affect our overall strategy. Now we check to see if any of our groups will be reassigned. 3 of our groups have reassigned numbers attached to them, so there is a chance we could lose them in transfer. First, we'll roll for the 4th fighter group, which will be reassigned on a roll of 10. And a roll of 2 means the group will remain in play. Next, we'll roll for the Ace 91st Bomb Group, who will be reassigned on a roll of 9 or higher. And a roll of 5 means the 91st will also remain in play. Finally, we roll for the 97th, which will be transferred on a roll of 10. and another roll of 5 keeps the veteran 97th in play. Next, we apply our 12 monthly replacement points to our damaged groups. Plus, we add 3 more points for the successful destruction of a U-boat pen earlier in the month, for a total of 15. As we only need 10 replacement points to fully repair all of our groups, we have more than enough to do the job. Our next task is to replace any destroyed aircraft factories. As there are no factories to replace, since we didn't target any this past month, we move on to our last task, adjusting the campaign timeline, which brings us into December and our final month of the campaign. This week, we successfully destroyed 2 targets and racked up more experience and victory points. A job well done as far as bombing goes. However, more SO points are going to be removed from our weekly allotment because of the secondary mission failure. If this would have happened earlier in the campaign, it would be cause for concern. But since there are only 2 weeks left in the game, it shouldn't be much of a hindrance. More German squadrons in Europe is always cause for concern, though it does seem the Germans are still concentrating the bulk of their air power near Germany than along the French and Belgian coasts. Perhaps they are expecting deeper penetration raids in the future, who knows. But with a new German air commander in play, and new German air tactics to deal with, even a small number of German squadrons could wreak havoc on our bomber groups. We'll see what tricks the Germans will spring on us when we begin the final 2 weeks of our campaign in the next video. So, thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon.